Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mark Mills, and I'm proud to introduce you to the creator of Exam Simulator, Mr. James Sims.
Good evening, everyone. It's my privilege to introduce you to Exam Simulator. You are in for an exciting 30 minutes of presentation, followed by a live Q&A at the close. We would love to receive your questions, and you can post them into the chat below, just down here under the video. You can also tweet us your question using #ExamSimulator. My colleagues Marta, Ellie, and Mark will be picking up on those questions and bringing them to my attention so that I can answer them here live for you this evening. You can also use #ExamSimulator beyond this evening in the days that follow. We would love to receive your comments and questions in the days that come. We have attendees from many sectors with us this evening. The TEL team is here with me tonight. We have excellent representation of teachers and school leaders. We have many of our freelance creators here too. But I'd also like to extend a special welcome to our industry partners from all major exam boards, as well as to representatives of the major educational publishing houses. Finally, I'd like to extend my welcome to those of you who are here watching this event as an investor. We hope you like what you see. Before we get into the nitty-gritty of Exam Simulator and its incredible capacity to challenge and improve learning, let's take a look at where the journey began.
Shoulder, first of all, we're going to have a look at the articulating bones. More accurately is that the shoulder has moved in this direction.
And I'm going to sort of broaden this and bring this out at the top of the muscle, okay? So we've now got this structure.
Well, folks, you've seen where we've been in recent years and where this all began, and now, to an extent, where we're going. It's important to stress where we are right now. And with that in mind, and with the fact that Exam Simulator is going to be initially launched and tested and developed in the academic PE environment, this lovely niche sector, which is ripe with can-do people and those early adopters who can make things happen. We need to see where we are in that subject and make that representation so you understand the context of where this piece of software sits. So I want to remind everybody of what our mission is in academic PE sitting here right now today. And it is the following. The Everlearner Limited, supported by the PE teaching sector and other stakeholders, will increase raw mark performance across all academic PE exams by a minimum of 10% in the next 3 years. This means that by December 2023, raw mark performance across all academic PE exams will increase from where it is right now today, an average of 43% of marks hit, to significantly greater than 53% of marks hit on average. If we reflect on that for a moment before I complete that mission, that means that students will go into exams and rather than, as is the case right now, answering the majority of questions wrongly, they will answer the majority correctly. That is a major transition from where we are now. This will be achieved in the context of increasing certification numbers across the sector, not a model of increasing exclusivity or decreasing course access. The Everlearner Limited will achieve this with 6 interventions. And really, this serves for me to remind you of some of the things the Everlearner does at its core. We work with teachers in classrooms, and in this context, specifically in PE classrooms. We provide our PE courses on the everlearner.com in support of those classrooms, never instead of them. We now have the exam simulator there to support the skill basis by which students develop into that exact skill base they're going to require for their assessments. We have 4 further offers. We have our TEL PE Academy, a world-class CPD for academic PE teaching. We have our TEL PE national mock exams, meaning the students and whole groups, whole cohorts of learners can sit a mock exam online with us on exactly the same moment, the same day as thousands of other students around the country and beyond. That providing really fruitful feedback into the true performance level of those students at that time. Fifthly, we have TEL PE exam conferences, some weeks or months before each exam, a robust 1 or 2 day conference developing PE specific knowledge and skill base, including the incorporation of Exam Simulator. And finally, we have TEL PE last minute revision, something that supports students in those final moments before they prepare, before they go and sit an actual paper. And now that we see how this exam simulator sits in that overall offer, I am proud, I am honored, and I am humbled to introduce to you Exam Simulator.
You know what? It makes a difference.
It's well fast. You're going to save a lot of time.
Student feedback has been overwhelmingly positive. They love it.
You open a script and it's already marked.
It causes students to respond to feedback, to take action.
This is the future. Make no mistake, the game has changed.
Well, folks, that was pretty exciting. I think you'll agree. And I'd like us to go further now. And I want you to understand what it was that we set out to achieve in making this service. First of all, we wanted to improve the experience for students. We wanted students to devote more time to writing answers to more and better questions in an environment of better feedback and diagnostics. This, we firmly believe, will boost exam performance. We believe we have better questions than the limited range of SAMs and past papers, as well as teachers indeed creating their own versions of questions with varying quality and impact. The quality of ours is at the highest level. We believe we're providing a better writing experience with the highest quality imagery and accurate timings, exactly how the teacher wants to apply them. We believe we've achieved better feedback because it comes much more quickly and is available in context with follow-up actions immediately available there on screen next to the result the student has achieved. And we believe we've achieved better diagnostics so that every time a student writes, their writing is fully analyzed for content, skill, and assessment objectives. These diagnostics are available permanently as the student's writing progresses. The second group of individuals we needed to honor and support with Exam Simulator, of course, were teachers. We believe the most impactful thing that we can achieve for teachers is teachers saving time. We will save time, and there's many details of this to follow, with teachers saving time setting, assigning, marking, and analyzing. We consider these the 4 areas of exam admin. Teachers will save time when setting exam questions and exams themselves. They will save time assigning those questions and exams. They will save time when marking those questions and exams. And they will save time when analyzing those questions and exams. 5 years ago, I began establishing what the essential requirements of this system would be. We needed 4 things to make it a real world achievable reality. Number one, we needed an online task setting environment. We were lucky. We already had built assignments through the everlearner.com. Number two, we needed an online question answering environment. We built this from scratch, focusing on prose writing to begin with. Thirdly, we needed an online marking environment. This had to be more impactful for teachers than using a pen. And four, an online feedback environment with data processing built in. We had Tell dashboard through the everlearner.com, but we also wanted the next steps for the students to be actively built in to the analysis. But we also needed content. This environment would only succeed if the questions, mark schemes, and model answers were of the highest quality possible. We built our team. In fact, we established two teams. Our product, ExamSimulator itself, was built by our core educational team at Tell, led by me, combined with the magnificent design as well as back-end and front-end development team at Eton Digital, led by Damian Gatarich, who is with us tonight. And we established our content team, once again led by me, but also consisting of 20 highly qualified PE teachers, experts across all major exam boards. It is important to stress at this point that our questions, mark schemes, and model answer content is tight to the exam board specification requirements, making the experience of working within ExamSimulator highly relevant to exam performance. 5 years in the making. Today, ExamSimulator is here. What can it do? Well, it achieves 5 things for us. Number one, teachers set exam questions, papers, or mock exams online from any device whatsoever. All questions and all mark schemes are built into the platform, making the teacher's time commitment very brief. In fact, we project that setting and assigning an entire GCSE mock exam will take approximately 2 minutes. This includes the selection of questions, the allocation of the paper to the students, and all the timings and controls. The second thing ExamSimulator can do is allow students to answer questions online on any device. Within their writing environment, students have access to a timer for the paper if the writing has been set under assessed conditions. They have the capacity to expand imagery and video stimuli without losing access to the writing editor. They have access to every question on the paper at a single click. Crucially, all answers are auto-saved, so there is no possibility of the loss of work through internet outage or equivalent. Thirdly, upon submission of answers, ExamSimulator identifies potentially correct responses ready for the teacher's attention. Remember, we consider this to be auto-indicative, meaning the teacher remains the executive, but the teacher's attention is brought directly to the most relevant elements of the answer without any prior involvement by the teacher, saving the teacher huge swathes of time in the processing of writing. ExamSimulator does not require students to write the perfect or exact phrase that's in a mark scheme to be recognized as potentially correct. Our software, our algorithm does not require the same word order. It requires the same concept to be written down as that which might exist in the mark scheme. So we recognize the students write differently. We recognize there's massive variations, and ExamSimulator recognizes that too, and is capable of dealing with that variety. Fourthly, teachers ratify or change auto-indicative marking and add as many comments as they like. Teachers have access to the mark scheme and the marking guidance. All correct, vague, or wrong answers can be directly linked to specific marking points, making analysis far faster once marking has been completed. And finally, upon marking completion, ExamSimulator processes all marks and results and presents these back to the student and the teacher in full diagnostic view via dashboard. Students and teachers receive this feedback and the legacy of writing performance And this is established for every student on every aspect of every course with literally zero effort by the teacher. But it's also important to note that ExamSimulator learns through student and teacher interactions. As students write and teachers ratify or change, ExamSimulator, got to remember the word, gets better and better at identifying correct content within prose. We call this the hit rate. Our testing has shown us the following. Number one, the time taken to create a paper by a teacher reduces by greater than 90% compared to any equivalent task on paper. Number two, the time taken to distribute a paper and allocate the task to learners reduces by 100% by definition compared to any mechanism whatsoever, including current online offerings. Thirdly, the time taken to collate papers and prepare marking reduces by 100% compared to any mechanism, including current online offerings. And fourthly, the time taken to process marked work and produce performance breakdown reduces by exactly 100%. In fact, this is the work that actually rarely gets done by teachers because of the time it takes and the laborious nature of it. ExamSimulator does it with no interaction and no intervention by the teacher whatsoever. But what about the time taken to mark students' work? That's the big question. Time saving during marking is based on what we refer to as that hit rate. This is the rate by which ExamSimulator correctly identifies relevant content for each question according to the mark scheme. The problem is human beings write in a wide variety of ways. This is why we built machine learning directly into ExamSimulator. Machine learning means that ExamSimulator achieves an ever-improving hit rate, and this means that the time taken by teachers to mark answers becomes ever less. But how fast is fast? How rapidly will this system learn? We believe that prior to ExamSimulator being launched and part of your offering today, we all mark and work in effectively an analog way, with the teacher being the fundamental processor of marking. That today hit rate is 0% by definition. That's what all of us have access to right now. We believe on day one of ExamSimulator, and I want to stress these are worst case scenarios. This is not optimism, but indeed realism mixed with a touch of pessimism actually. That on day one, we believe that ExamSimulator hit rate will be a minimum of 60%. Because of the inbuilt machine learning, we believe that by day 7 of ExamSimulator, hit rate will be in the region of 80%. That by day 30, only a month later, we're talking about in February 2021, ExamSimulator will be performing at a hit rate of something in the region of 90%. The journey from 90 to 99% will occur over the remainder of the academic year that follows, or the 11 months that follow. We believe that in 365 days from launch, from first usage of ExamSimulator hit rate will perform at a rate of 99%. And I should stress that that 1% remainder is those really hard to reach points on mark schemes like opinions and very varied examples and applications. That is actually the area where ExamSimulator might need a little bit of teacher intervention and support. But of course, it will gradually and steadily improve with the range of answers it receives. So machine learning, through your interactions and involvements, you will actually see ExamSimulator getting better and better, potentially from one script to the very next one. This is the perfect example of a business innovating and a community of users continuously improving and refining that innovation. It's something we cannot wait to get into your hands. So what happens next? Well, you can see on screen right now, we have a variety of courses that are going to become available in the coming days, the coming weeks, and the coming months. You will have noticed from our presentation this evening that we are starting our moves in Exam Simulator in the world of academic PE teaching and learning. We believe that is the right model to hone this, to refine it, to nail it down, and to produce it at the highest performing hit rate possible. I want to thank PE teachers in advance, not only because you're here, not only because you do an amazing job, but because of who you are, because of your open-mindedness, because of your can-do attitude, because of your capacity to be true early adopters. You are leading lights in our education sector, and I thank you in advance, and you hopefully can see in front of you the courses that are available. But I also want to be clear that by September 2021, we believe Exam Simulator will be absolutely ready for every area of the secondary curriculum, and indeed the primary one potentially as well. We believe it will be ready for every single subject that has any form of prose-based writing in its assessment experience. That could be exams, that could be coursework, that could be one mark question. It could be 20 or longer, 20 mark questions in the form of an essay or a piece of extended writing. Exam Simulator will deal with it all. So what happens next? Our alpha testing group is live right now using Exam Simulator with their students. The launch of Exam Simulator for all major GCSE PE courses occurs in January. Use of Exam Simulator between January and September is completely free for all current subscribers. By September 2021, we will be primed to expand Exam Simulator to all courses in all subjects. If you are a teacher of science, a teacher of history, or of health and social care, etc., 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 make sure you book a demo with us in the coming weeks. Who knows? You could be our very next content creator working with us to produce a wonderful set of resources inside Exam Simulator for your subject. If you are a publisher or investor, contact me directly to discuss your impressions of our groundbreaking world-first service and to help us make Exam Simulator a realization for every teacher and every student in the world. We are deeply proud to bring you this service. We are even more proud to bring you this service at a time of national crisis and societal challenge. I hope you see in the work that we've done that maybe, just maybe, things can get better. And maybe, after all, things don't always go from bad to worse. My name's James Sims. I want to thank my team around me, Marta, Mark, Ellie, Natasha, for supporting me in the production of this event. I want to thank our content creators for supporting us. I want to thank Eaton Digital for working on the technological solution. And I'm here this evening, open to answer any questions you have. Thank you very much.
And we're back. So, Marta, there we go. I'm just going to bring the microphone in touch. I'm over to you and ready to take questions. So, what do we have?
So we have quite a few questions. We have. I'm not sure if people can hear me properly. I hope you can.
Yeah, you're good.
Good. So the first question comes from Hannah through Vimeo, and Hannah's asking, could the exam be downloaded and printed so that students can answer it in writing and replicate a written paper? What do you think, James?
There's probably two answers to that, really. I mean, you could obviously take a screenshot of one of the exam questions and print it out if you wanted to. I mean, you know, like anything. But I think it should really be stressed, Hannah, that the advantages of writing online compared, not instead of using that technology, which, by the way, I love this technology, nothing wrong with this. But of course, what this does is it allows an analog environment. The analog environment doesn't allow certain processes to occur automatically off the back. It literally involves photocopying, printing, handing out, getting back in, potentially losing. You don't get any of the data processing advantages at the end of that. But of course, it's quick and easy, so that works for you too. So what I would encourage teachers to do is to have a blend, is to use online Exam Simulator writing when you want to read, that blend. I mean, we talk about blended learning, not least at the moment, all the time. That for me is an exciting blend. But let's be clear, writing on paper, while super simple and the thing we're all accustomed to, it does not have the advantages that we've just presented there. But again, from my heart and as a teacher, I want to stress, I have no objection, I have no reason to argue that someone shouldn't use a pen. You should do it that way, but blend that with this developed, highly processed, highly recorded, highly traceable, trackable reporting that ExamSimulator provides you. So that's for Hannah.
Cool. I've got another question from Mike, also on Vimeo. Mike is asking, will you publish your hit rate and criteria for measuring?
Yes. I mean, how much detail do you want me to go into that? So if I remember, so hit rate, I've actually got it written down here. Hit rate equals ratified correct answer over what we call ID'd answer. And yes, we will publish it. It's one that we do that. Now, it's really important to stress here that this is not. Think about our hit rate as something like that final scene of the Crystal Maze. Other game shows are available. You know that one where they've got to grab the gold but not grab the silver. That one, I'm sure we've all seen that at some point. It's a bit like that. What we ultimately measure ourselves on is that tendency to find the gold ticket and ignore the silver one. In other words, not highlight things which are actually less than relevant compared to the marking points. Now, the machine learning is super important to this. Now, we write into our marking points. You won't see them actually necessarily on the marking guidance itself, but we write a range of variations. And remember what the algorithm does. Let's say that the question was, what color is the sky? Obviously, we all know that the answer could be blue, but what about bluish? What about it's sometimes blue and other times grey? What about if the student writes on a cloudy day, it's white? You know, all of these answers are potentially correct. Now, there's two things there. First of all, however a student writes that phrasing, if they get the concept right, ExamSimulator will pick that up. Secondly, if ExamSimulator somehow misses it, and you ratify that as correct, the very next time, indeed the next paper, it will pick it up successfully, or the equivalent, again, with variations in it each time. But yes, we will publish the hit rate. Is going to be really important. And obviously from our perspective, it's a touch of a marketing tool as well, because then of course we can say, right, we're at a hit rate of 97.8%. That's more accurate than human beings.
Cool. Liam, also on Vimeo, is asking, will the time available for each question be editable for students with extra time?
Exactly right. And there's really 3 settings you'll have in terms of your question. Well, there's actually 4, but anyway. So if you set what we call a practice exam, there'll be no time restriction whatsoever. But of course, that's a practice, it's not an assessment. It's a sort of thing you might set as a homework. Take as long as you need. Have a week. I've set you 4 questions. Let's see what it's like when you come back. That will be open for a whole week for those students, and the students can go back into it, edit it whenever they need to. It's all auto-save. They cannot lose any work. It's impossible, okay? The second is what we call an assessed exam. There's lots of ways to do an assessed exam. There's an assessed exam that you just accept what we say is suggested timing. There's model 1. We've got a model in there where it'll suggest a time for you. But secondly, you can edit that time and say, right, my whole group is going to get 2 minutes extra than the suggested time. The fourth alternative, of course, is that for this group of students compared to this group of students, we structure the timing differently, and that's going to be built into ExamSimulator.
Cool. Tim is asking, given the fact that some of our subject exam questions have been really badly written in terms of command words and mark schemes, how does this ExamSimulator take this into account?
We write perfectly.
We spent a lot of time thinking about.
I really hope, cross my arms, defensive, wasn't it? I really hope that one of the impacts of us putting this out and the number of questions that we're going to release is that the question quality themselves will actually have an impact on those that write official exams. Why shouldn't we aspire to that? So we're going to write, there's a brave thing saying it, write perfect questions, but this is something we thought about very carefully. But I would say to you, I'm just wondering if I know which Tim is Tim. I don't want to guess.
Tim Brown.
I thought it would be Tim Brown. Well, good lad. How's Chichester going, Tim? Anyway, what I would say here is that we have been very, very careful to distinguish between, let's say, an OCR GCSE PE 6 marker and an AQA GCSE PE 9 marker, not just because there's 3 marks difference, but because the skill and the response requirement is actually significantly different. So we've been very cautious to reflect that. Now, if an exam board, let's not blame one more than the other, but if an exam board writes a paper and it has some poor questioning on it, I can't directly control that. I can control the quality of the questions that we put out.
Cool. I've got to say, there is a great deal of excitement on the Vimeo chat.
There should be.
I think people are generally really looking forward to it. Some people who might teach BTEC will be released later on. Might be a bit sad that they're going to have to
Can I
wait
just
a
jump
bit.
in there a second? And I'm glad there's excitement. I mean, obviously, you know, The thing I would say is I think we've done well. Hopefully you see the history of where we've progressed from. I genuinely believe this is the best work we've ever done, and by a distance. And I'm really happy to hear this excitement because I'm excited about it as well. And this goes to the core, it goes to the heart, it goes to ultimately what students do in their assessment moments, right? So it's what Weston and Clay called the outer edge, the literal cutting edge of where the impact zone is. So yeah, I think I'm glad to hear there's excitement.
I've got an interesting question from Eugene, asking, will it be possible to upload other questions apart from the EverLearner questions themselves?
We looked really carefully at this, and Martha's nodding away in the background. In iteration 1 and probably iteration 2 and 3, the answer will be no. However, we are quite interested in this longer term developing into a kind of a marketplace for questions where people who write really great questions, marking points, marking guidance, and also model answers. And I'm not going to mention hints and actual writing guidance. That's going to be in a future iteration. But teachers and creators who can do that, we would quite like to enable this so that people can come in and make their own content. Now that ultimately poses a challenge for us as well, because there's certain levels of quality that we want to be able to quality assure and ratify as really great quality that represents our business, of course. But theoretically in the future we will. But I hope people will understand that in the initial period and the initial iterations, we really need to control the inner workings of this so that it can develop strongly in the future. It's that really strong, deep-based foundation that we're looking for.
And EF, also on Vimeo, is asking, will it include 9-mark questions?
Yes. And 10 and 20, depending on your qualification. And gigantic pieces of coursework. I mean, if I jump to the future, technically you could process an entire thesis this way.
Good. There are quite a few people are asking about cost. Are we in a position? Do we?
I'll give some guidance. I mean,
Yes.
the first most fundamental thing is we want you to be using this as soon as possible. That's why we're keeping it free between now and September. It will then become one of two purchasing mechanisms. Okay, so if you are a subscriber to the everlearner.com, it will become an add-on to your subscription. I want to be crystal clear here. We want to make that very achievable for those of you that are already supporting us. And I would say to you subscribers, and especially those of you who are founder members, but also those of you that joined us after that COVID-free period that we provided, this is what your money's gone into to fund. And I hope you're proud of that, because I am. Because one of the things one of the 360 nature of this is that if you pay us things, we're going to invest and we're going to innovate. And I hope you can see that. I hope that feels good to you. But we believe for our current subscribers, this is going to be a modest add-on. And again, it's completely optional for you, okay? The other thing is, if you're not a subscriber to the everlearner.com, then you could purchase Exam Simulator in its own right as a separate entity without the everlearner.com. Now, we hope you would like both, of course, but obviously if you buy it as a single entity, it's going to be a bit more premium than if it's an add-on where it's going to be really, really achievable. I'm sorry if there's not specific numbers in there, but our priority has been getting this out and getting this to people, and that's what we're doing right now. I really wouldn't want to price people out of the market ethically. That would be very awkward for me. Equally, we can't give it away for free because it takes a lot to build it. So I hope you guys can understand. And as you spend on it, we will make it better. And I mean, I'm not going to go there today, but I'm already thinking what happens next. So, I hope that's a reasonable answer.
John is asking, will examiner reports or model answers be integrated
Yes.
in order to help pupils know why they didn't get the mark?
Yes. Every single question.
Benjamin's asking...
So can I add something
sorry.
there? Almost all of those model answers are going to be written by me personally. And I don't know if you're going to see that as a strength or a weakness. Sometimes you'd like the model answer to be written by a 16-year-old or an 18-year-old, but these are going to be model answers. So we're going to, I'm taking personal care over that to make sure that this is really high quality piece. Right, I'm a little bit. There's a balance to strike there because we don't want to write in such an elevated way that's not. It doesn't feel attainable for a teenager. But equally, we want it aspirational and we want it class and quality. So that's something that I really take a lot of pride over, and I enjoy it.
Benjamin's asking if the questions are searchable by question level, command, word.
Yep. Whatever you can think of, you can search, and you could search the THE, and you could find all the questions there. You could search it by lesson. So if you want questions that cover, let's say, redistribution of blood, you could search for that particular lesson, or you could search for blood, or you could search for 2 markers or 3, or you could search for assessment objectives, or you could search by command. All of that's built in. Now, obviously, the more you filter things, the narrower that range of questions going to get, but that's the point, right? And we try to make the questions in Exam Simulator nice and controllable, so when you see them you get almost like a summary view, but you can expand them, you can look at the marking points, you can look at the marking guidance, you drag them across, and it all goes with it. The question, the marking point, when I say marking point, is the mark scheme, the marking guidance, do, accept, don't accept, also the model answers, it all comes across, and of course that becomes relevant afterwards in the processing.
Barry's suggesting here, if you can...
I want to know if that's Barry Goosen.
I don't know, it just
think
says
it is.
Barry.
Okay.
So if you can create random tests, like the checkpoints, we've got set up on the Everlearner.
Well, it's a really interesting... in iteration 1, no, but that's a nice idea. I mean, technologically, that's very, very simple. The way I would imagine that is that you select exactly, maybe more like you test yourself assignment, where you select this lesson, this lesson, this lesson, this lesson, and then you might say something like, I want a 20-mark paper, done. That would be very, very simple for us to achieve. I'll leave that one with Mark Mills to ponder. Whether that'll be in iteration 2 or 3 or 4, we'll have to come back to on that one, but it's very, very possible. I hope you guys realise as well that iteration 1 or release version 1, the key thing we had to achieve there was to have that accuracy in that prose. We're also, if you look at most exam papers now, especially at GCSE, and even to a degree at A-levels, some A-levels, they've got multiple choice aspects in there. There's lots of almost gap fill questions, like they leave a tiny space for one word or something like that. We've already got all of that in our quizzing environments, and we're going to integrate that in time. But iteration 1 was about getting that prose aspect of this right, because that's what no one's ever nailed down before. So that's what we challenge ourselves, and of course it can grow and mushroom in time, and we'll do it that way.
I think it's worth sort of reiterating about the questions. A couple of people have asked whether the questions have been taken from past papers.
No.
I think it's important to stress where the questions come from.
I can't do that because technically that's illegal. That would be a copyright infringement, so I can't do that. So we've written every one of them from scratch, but it's really important, I stress to you, I won't name names here, but we've worked very, very closely with exam board representatives. That's not the right word, I'll rephrase that. We've worked very, very closely with people that both work with the exam boards internally, but also have a very deep understanding and deep knowledge. And of course, I'm directly involved personally in every single question. I have a 2-hour session tomorrow, for example, writing some additional content on AQA GCSEP, and there'll be 3 of us that are going through that piece by piece by piece. Now, what I would say about have we taken past paper questions is that we've looked at the exact ways in which things have been asked, and we've scaled that out, for example, to all of the movement patterns in GCSE for a particular exam board. So you're going to have that fullest range possible. So you can pick, right, I want this from the shoulder, this from the knee, this from the ankle, if the ankle is involved in your specification and so on. So we've done it that way. I think you're going to be quite pleased with what you get in terms of content range and quality, and perhaps more subtly is the quality of imagery that relates to those questions where it's relevant. We've worked really hard on that as well to make sure imagery and analysis of imagery, especially tabular and graphical imagery where it's relevant, is really high quality.
Great. Emily is saying, please could you confirm if it will be possible to set the same standardized test to more than one
Yes.
class on the Everlearner in
Yep.
the same cohort or across year groups, so comparisons for consistency
Absolutely.
will be possible?
Yeah, so actually the first thing you will ever do in Exam Simulator is you'll create a paper. So the first paper you create is probably going to be called Test Practice Paper or something like that. But that paper will then be available to you permanently until the point you delete it. So you may well create, for example, my Year 10 October mini mock test and use it year after year after year after year. Or indeed, they sit it in October, someone doesn't do so well, and they sit it again 2 weeks later. That's absolutely fine. You can continually reassign that. And by the way, in your department, if there's 2 of you, 3 of you, more of you, which would be the case for most people watching this, you can also assign it to your department. So let's say, sorry, I forgot the colleague's name. I'm so sorry.
Emily.
Sorry. Let's say Emily creates a paper of 10 questions as an end of unit test. That paper will immediately become usable by the rest of the department, and they can use Emily's paper. Now, what won't happen is that those papers get spread beyond the department use, because ultimately people want to make it in their own style. So it works that way. So yeah, I mean, there's going to be that long legacy, and sort of related to that, one of the things I'm actually most excited about is kind of subtle. Is when the teacher and the student go into the dashboard. Let's say the lesson's planes and axes on one of the courses, and let's say it's the teacher. Let's be the student. The student clicks on the 3. There's a number 3 in the dashboard because the student's written answers about that 3 times. They click on that number 3 and it opens up all 3 answers they've ever done with all of the marking, all of the feedback, all of the comments, all of the marks, the missed marks, the marking points, and it shows them how they've written on those questions in the past. That is powerful because it gives you this legacy of performance, not just numbers, but here's the actual detail click, and it's there. That's stuff that I dreamed about as a full-time classroom teacher. Being able to do that was stuff that I felt I could never get to, I could never achieve because it was so manual, and we've automated that.
Mm-hmm. And probably for closing, Benjamin is asking, how are you getting around the accept other appropriate answers? I think it's important also to stress the fact that the system learns as
that's right. If I assume I'm talking to PE teachers just for a second, if we take something like AO2 at GCSE, where you've got the broadest range of possible practical applications, of course it's very difficult for us to write into a mark scheme all of the possibilities that a student might incorporate. So we do have marking guidance alongside the marking points, and that's where teachers can actually manually credit something, of course. But secondly, once you manually credit something as correct, I'm not going to get into detail of how this works because it's actually a bit under lock and key, but after a short process that involves no people, it's completely automated, your correct will be recognized as potentially correct for the entire population of people that are using that paper. So let's say your student writes a really interesting example from a judo throw, say, something to do with the hip, and it's a judo throw, then that will become a correct or potentially correct response for everybody shortly after that. I think that's really exciting. And that's where that 1% above 99% is going to be really interesting, because that's where, as I said earlier on, in the hard to reach places, that's where we'll have to keep striving with it, but it'll get continually better and better and better. And I think that was essential for us to incorporate that. Any other questions, Marta?
There's one from Chloe through Facebook. How does the software allocate marks? How does it work? How do we do it?
Okay, so we have 2 different question types in the platform. Okay, so we have a question which is probably the most standard question you get on most exams, whereby if you highlight something it is correct, it gets 1 mark up to the maximum mark. Okay, so the algorithm identifies correct content in relation to a particular marking point. It links it to that marking point. The teacher doesn't need to do that, and it's simply waiting there for the teacher to go green, and that then immediately allocates that mark. Exactly the same happens in what we call leveled questions. The only difference with level questions is that as the teacher goes green, 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 clicking on that which has been identified, it doesn't add up marks. It waits till the end, and it prompts the teacher to say, out of 6 or out of 9 or out of 20, what do you want to allocate to this particular answer? And then the teacher will simply put in 7, move on, and it works that way. And with regard to the algorithm itself, guys, it's really important. I really want to reiterate this point. The student does not need to does not need to match the language which is in the mark scheme description. Okay, they need to write relevant content that describes the equivalent concept. Now, technologically, I'm not going to get into that here. Plus, we're also looking to patent it, so I'm not going to explain that to you right now. But the student can write it down in a multitude of ways. You know, whether they use increase, greater than, more, all of this is going to be recognized as equivalent. Whether they invert the verb, whether all of this is going to be recognized as equivalent. And even if they have spelling variations or errors to a certain degree, they will be accepted. But of course, there's some situations where when something's written down, it's simply wrong. Let's say the example of a tibula or a fibia. We want to be able to make sure that they are marked as incorrect, because they are.
And probably this brings us to the point that Emily and Benjamin were just mentioning on Vimeo, saying what happens if a teacher marks something correct which is actually incorrect? What happens? Is the system going to start awarding that as correct to everyone?
No, it's vetted. So we have a system. Again, I can't actually describe that to you here because it is a source of protection. But no, things are only pushed to the population after a series of steps. Now, what will happen is if, let's go back to our question. What color is the sky? If a student writes it's orange with purple spots, and a teacher marks that correct, it will then, on the very next paper, the very next script for that teacher, identify that for that individual, because that teacher has just marked correct. It will impact on no one else. And we're also looking at some kind of cool little things that we can do as well. So, for example, let's say you open your marking and you open script 1 for student 1 on question 1, and you go to the first highlighted point that ExamSimulator has brought to your attention, and you click it green, and it says the sky is blue. Let's use that example. We would like to input, and we're not sure if we're going to do this yet, but we'd like to quickly have this pop up which comes up and says, would you like to quickly credit on all scripts the equivalent point? And it will show you a very quick breakdown of the language we believe should get the equivalent point on other papers, and you go yep, no, yep, no, yep, and do it that way. We think it'll be very quick. The downside to that is you might get less of a feel for a student's whole piece of writing. So we're going to have a look at that one. We also have got a bridge to cross in the future whether we are going to offer you teachers a button which is mark all correct. I'm not sure about that yet. It feels on the edge. So we'll see how the idea of that would be you open the script, question 1, paper 1, student 1, and you can simply go ratify all, bang, move on to the next one. We'll see what teachers want to do with that one. I'm just a little bit dubious of discouraging teachers from reading the students' writing. I think in an educational cycle that's questionable.
Fantastic.
All right,
Brilliant.
happy?
Yes. I don't know if you want to leave it here. I've got one more question.
Oh yeah,
about
that's fine
AI.
for me.
I don't know if you
Yeah,
want to go
please,
in there.
yeah.
So yes, Paul through Facebook's asking whether we're going to incorporate AI.
Well, Paul might be a genius because that's the last 1%. So if I can put it this way for you, like when you guys support us and you work with this and you invest in this with us, AI will be the bit that gets us that last little step, and maybe where it gives us the shine and the wax of the polish at the top to say, right, actually this is now fully automated. So AI is, if you like, the final piece of the jigsaw, the final step on the journey. It's something that I don't know yet whether I want to commit to. For me personally, students writing, teachers reading, and machine learning, making that reading hyper efficient is the right model for now. AI would be the thing that ultimately bridges that last percentage point of accuracy, or better to say breadth. And that's something that I'm going to consider. It's certainly something that technologically we could achieve, and it's something I've spent time chatting to Damian and the team at Eton about, and it's a possibility, but for right now we'll see how that progresses. Cool. Well, guys, we're gonna sign off. March and myself are gonna put our feet up. It's been a hell of a day, and we're really proud to bring that to you. I hope it's been an interesting evening for you. We're really proud of it. And ExamSimulator, hey, it's a real thing, and we're going to have it to you in a matter of days. Guys, have an absolutely magnificent evening. I wish you a very Merry Christmas. I'm going to say whatever the words are for stay safe, but I think what I'm going to say more than anything is be with your families, and take what